Did anyone else get stuck in a time vortex for the past 2 months? I really feel like it was July and I blinked and then it was September. If you did get stuck in a time vortex like me, welcome back. Hope you had a better time than I did. And if not, how were the past 2 months I wasn't here? I have notes today. That's the wrong notes. I actually came out of the vortex for a little bit and I filmed a video and it's mostly edited actually, but I laughed just a second ago because it was weird. I was really feeling out of it and I was tired, so I just did a video while I was filming my makeup, and it's kind of chaotic, but it's kind of funny. But I felt like I owed you this video that I've been saying I would make. What video is that? Well, thank you for asking, because you probably forgot if you were in the vortex with me. But I said I would make a video on my updated beta reading process, and that's what I'm here to do. So, first and foremost, I start all of my sentences with so. Do you know how many so's I edit out of my videos? Anyway, if you don't know what a beta reader is kind of what it sounds like. It's a person who reads your book. They are essentially the first real readers, and I'm putting real in quotes because they're not quite real readers, because at this point you don't have a polished manuscript most likely. You've at least done one round of edits, but there's probably some typos, a couple little things going on, and they answer questions for you. Why? I'm doing this in a very roundabout way. So beta readers essentially tell you what's working and what isn't. That's the point of a beta reader. You send them some pages, send them some questions to go with the pages, and they tell you what they liked, what they didn't like, and the goal of using beta readers is to then, when your book is officially finished, you are presenting a more polished product to agents, or if you're self-publishing, to readers. You don't have to use beta readers. You don't have to do anything. But beta readers are very crucial in making your book a better book. I've done this process twice now, and in just those 2 times, I have made a lot of changes to how I do things based on how betas responded to my first project. Just like anything you do, putting together content for beta readers takes some trial and error, and I have learned from some, I don't want to call them mistakes because they weren't like that grievous, but I've learned from some problems and have changed up my process a bit, and I thought I would present you some of these things not to do. Okay. I thought I would present you some of these things not to do so that if it is your first time, then you can start with slightly better footing, or if it is not your first time using beta readers, you can maybe learn something too. So I've got some bullet points of things to cover. My initial beta reading process, how I changed it, the questions I asked, and a little tiny section on how to find beta readers. I've molded and changed my process from seeing other YouTubers talk about their beta reading process. At this point, I've seen a wide range of videos, so I honestly can't tell you exactly where I got everything, but I'm sure if you're looking into doing a beta reading session, I guess. If you're looking into having beta readers, then you've probably done the same thing. But this is kind of just a huge combination of a bunch of different advice that I got and that I molded to fit myself. Everybody's different. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. This might not fit your needs, and that's fine, but maybe it will help you too, so that would be good. Beep, 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 beep. I'm a robot. That's what the vortex did to me. Let's get started. Actually, big brain. If you've ever been in a creative writing class or a workshop class or whatever, you've had beta readers because you've had the class read your stuff. So think about that. That's kind of what beta readers are doing, but I would say those classes are more critique partner-y than beta reader-y, but it's kind of like a little sandwiched thing. The first project that I ever sought out actual beta readers for was for a young adult fantasy that I co-wrote. So I'm going to tell you what I did, and then I'm going to tell you why I think what I did was not the best decision. So I would send my betas about 30 pages, which would end up being 2 or 3 chapters. Every chapter had their own set of questions, but I put it all in one form so it was, easier to navigate which section you were on. And at first glance, that seemed like it would be fine. 30 pages doesn't seem like that much to read, but you have to consider the fact that your betas are in school or working, they might have kids, they have lives outside of your book. Shocking, I know. So while 30 pages might not seem like a lot, it really can be a lot, especially when you have questions for each chapter. And I would have about 10 questions per chapter, which again, doesn't seem like much, but when you're sending them 3 chapters, you're sending them 30 questions. So they have 30 pages and 30 questions. And if they are doing their job the way you want them to, then they'll be putting in a lot of effort into those questions. In regards to the questions that I asked, I would ask the same set of like 4 or 5 questions per chapter, which I'll get to when I talk about the questions that I ask, got repeated all the time. So then that, that tacked on more questions for your reader. My reader. It wasn't your reader, it was my reader. I think having things be so lengthy not only made my betas take longer to read than I wanted them to, but it also made them not excited to keep going. Being a beta reader is like homework. You have additional homework to whatever work you are doing at home. So fixing these problems would not only make things easier for them, but honestly it would have made things easier for me, because it would have been less to read through, shorter sections to make, and all that jazz. So how did I change things? This go around, I sent people shorter sections. I think the longest one that I sent was 21 pages. Most of them were like 17-ish pages. I sent roughly 2 chapters, unless one was a very long chapter. And like I said, I had repeat questions, so I combined those, making the questionnaire itself shorter. Obviously, I can't 100% know if this is what the problem was, or if it was just the manuscript and people weren't interested. Why did I do a weird pop on the T? That was weird. On this most recent beta journey that I've gone on, I have had a higher retention rate, and people are reading much more quickly. And maybe the retention problem is not something that can be accounted for, but I think the speed of which most of my betas are completing things has something to do with what I've been sending them. But what are you sending them, Cassie? Well. I'm sending them some questions. So now you know length is a problem. But what questions do you ask them? Here are the questions that I ask them, and I'll tell you why I ask them. First, I ask, what are your initial thoughts on this section? This is a sort of catch-all where they just dump their initial thoughts, like the question implies. This could be anything from, wow, I loved it, to this section is slow, or I can't believe this character did this thing. It's just a quick little thing for you to be able to gauge how your readers felt about the section. The next question I ask is, what are your thoughts on the main character? And this seems like it wouldn't be that important of a question throughout the entire thing, but it definitely is. You need to know if you're keeping your main character consistent, if they are likable, and if that sort of thing changes. Like, if your character starts out and they're like, I hate her, but then by the end of the book they go, I've grown to love her, then that's great. That's probably what you wanted if that's how your main character is. But if it's the opposite, and your readers were like, I love her. And then by the end, they are like, she's super annoying. That's definitely something that you need to know. And you need to know when that change starts to happen. You also need to know, just on a chapter by chapter basis, how consistent they are. It could be something like, I thought your character was afraid of water, and now she is swimming a mile. That seems like a big change in character. If it's unwarranted, obviously. I don't know your story about a woman swimming a mile. It's just a good way to keep your main character in check. The next question I ask is, what are your thoughts on the other major characters? This will usually be a love interest, probably a villain, and any important characters in between. This does change for me on a chapter by chapter basis because your main character is going to be in every chapter, presumably, but your supporting cast might not be. Even if the love interest is vastly important, chances are they're not going to be in 2 or 3 chapters, but maybe another character who is important will be. And this isn't a place to ask about every little character. You don't need to be like, what were your thoughts on the shop clerk? Like, you just saw him for 3 lines, he's fine, thanks. But I think you'll be able to understand which characters deserve to have this question, who you need to know, who is consistent, same stuff that I said about the main character. And for the record, I list more than one character in this section. I'll be like, what were your thoughts on, and I'm looking at my pop dolls, what were your thoughts on Loki, Harley Quinn, and Fox Mulder? Because they're not the main characters, they're supporting cast in my life. The next question I ask is, were the character interactions and dialogue believable, and if not, why? Pro tip, do not leave your readers to just say yes or no, unless literally all you need is yes or no. If it's just a yes, great, you really don't need more. But if it's a no, you need to know why the dialogue wasn't believable. Unbelievable dialogue can really kill a book and kill a story, so that is something that is definitely important that you need to keep track of. But you definitely need to know why something isn't working. The next question I ask is, did you feel there was enough or too much detail within the scenes? You need to know if your reader is getting bogged down by details. Not all readers. Some readers like flowery descriptions of ornate houses and blah blah blah. Especially in stuff like historical fiction, people love to see these rich descriptions of clothing and atmosphere. But for the most part, you don't want to give too much detail because that can definitely weigh down a scene. On the contrary, you need to know that you're giving them enough. And this can be not just scenic details, by the way. It can be details about why a character responded to something a certain way. So a reader could respond to this section like, I didn't feel that I had enough detail on why she stole his car. Or it could be like, I have no idea what anyone looks like. Please describe them to me. So all of those questions you ask every single section. In the past, I asked that every single chapter, and that's way too much. More likely than not, your readers' responses are going to be the same for the 2 or 3 chapters that you send them based on, the detail and all of that. And if it isn't, they'll say, I thought it was believable in chapter 9, but not in chapter 10. And that'll be it. So after that, I ask a series of questions that are, what was your thoughts on insert scene? Don't say scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, because it can be difficult to differentiate between what's a new scene, what's a continuation. So you would say something like, what were your thoughts on the scene at the baseball field? And then they'll give their thoughts on the scene at the baseball field. And then after that, you'll ask, what were your thoughts on the scene at the ice cream parlor? And then they'll give their thoughts on that. Oh, also say, what were your thoughts on the scene in the ice cream parlor in chapter 2? And then you'll go on and say, what were your thoughts on the scene at the bank in chapter 3? Just to make things a little clearer. Because sometimes you'll have 2 chapters that are in the same location, but you need to differentiate between what's happening. The next question I ask is, was anything confusing? If so, what? Pretty self-explanatory. Don't be confusing. Depending on what you're writing, you might want a little confusion. If it's, a mystery, a thriller, or whatever, as long as it's where you want the confusion. If someone's like, I was confused why they had this whole conversation, that's probably not what you want. Also, this is a place, so usually when you have beta readers, they aren't looking at your typos or anything. That's a thing that you leave to editors. You tell your beta readers to try to ignore typos, but this is a section where if you have such a bad typo that they could put their confusion in there, which I think is fine when my betas have done that. There was one time in the thing that I just had betaed, I think I meant to write body, but I wrote boy, and I had several readers be like, what? What does this mean? And I was like, oh, hee hee, that was a typo, sorry. That's also a thing that Word isn't going to catch when you have a typo, because it's technically not a typo. So that sort of thing is fine for them to say that they were confused about. Next question. Did you lose interest at any point? If so, where? Very important. Yep. It's just an important question. You need to know if what you're writing is boring. So that's that. Then I have a question that is anything else you would like to comment on, which could really be anything. Go for it. Some people can just say, I like this, or they can be like, I thought the last section was better, or whatever they want to write. So sometimes they'll just say no, and that's fine. The final question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how compelled do you feel to keep reading? Obviously, you're not going to be a perfect 10 every chapter, but you definitely shouldn't be a 2. I think there is a balance of, which number is the right number to be, but also, how long are they this number? Have they been a 6 the whole book? That's something to note. Were they a 9 most of the book, but then for these 1 or 2 chapters they were a 4? Why is that? That's just something to keep on your radar. Personally, I think providing your betas questions is very important. Not all readers, but I think a lot of readers, if you just gave them 20 pages and said, tell me what you think, you are probably not going to get very good feedback. Some people will go in throughout the page and be like, why did you say this? What'd you do? Da, da, da. And that's probably very helpful for you. But I personally think that's more of a critique partner thing than a beta reader thing. So you don't have to give your betas questions, but I think it's the best way to keep yourself organized. Speaking of keeping organized, to keep organized, I do all of this on Google Forms. When you send everyone the same form, they don't see the other people's responses, but you get all of the responses in one place, so you know exactly who has responded and who hasn't. And it's just a good way of keeping organized. Little asterisk, by the way, when I first start, I have an intake form where I ask for their name, age, gender, is that it? Name, age, gender, email. And I have a form that's basically like, don't steal from me. And when they sign, that's when I officially start sending them stuff. Again, this is just a good way of keeping track of who is reading your stuff and the demographic of people reading your stuff. If they're all 22-year-old females, then you're not going to have as diverse of a read as if you have 24, 34, a couple guys, a couple non-binary. But how do you get a variety of beta readers? It's easy. Go to social media. Bada bing, bada boom. You got some beta readers. The way I found most success doing it was on Instagram. I'd make a post, say, beta readers wanted, give a couple sentences about what the book is about, and then I say, for more information, DM me and I'll send you the initial stuff. You can post this more than once to hopefully reach a wider audience. I used the hashtags writing community, author community, beta readers wanted, whatever. I'll actually include a link to the specific post I made when I was asking for betas, so you can take a look at it and see what hashtags I used if you're interested. And through that, I found a wide variety of readers. I found some people that I know, some people that I kind of knew, and someone that I didn't know at all that was halfway across the world, so completely different insight. A couple things about beta readers. They're free. Beta readers are supposed to be free. You pay an editor if you want more in-depth insight. You do not pay beta readers. If someone wants to be paid, you ghost them. You should, however, thank them. The way I'm doing it is including the betas who finish the whole manuscript in my acknowledgement section when I get to that, if I get published. Thanks anyway, guys. But that, in a nutshell, is my beta reading process. If you have any questions about it, ask me, ask away. I will respond. And if you liked this video, let me know. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. Okay. That's all. See you on the flippity flip. I've said that in several videos and then been like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. So is that just how I close videos? I guess. See you on the flippity flip. Bye. Outro. But I felt like I owed you this video that I've been saying I would make for a long time now, which is the beta. No. I got distracted by my nails. They're hollow. Can you tell? Okay, the pumpkin queen. Anyway, guys, do you want a fun fact? I'm sitting on my college degree right now.